What? A dirty factory in the middle of nowhere, not even worth discussing. Are you mocking us? I was dumbfounded by the two people laughing and looking at each other. Just because they were from a major company doesn't mean they can act so arrogantly. My son, also shocked, glared at them with visible anger. Can you at least show us some respect? We're not some rundown ancient factory. Charles's words pushed me to my limit. At that moment, get lost, kid. The deal is off. I felt a tremendous pressure from behind me. It was time for my father's punishment on these arrogant young men. I couldn't have imagined what would happen to the two who mocked us. My name is Chris Taylor, 53 years old. I work at my family's Taylor manufacturing plant. My father, Daniel, is 71 years old and still serves as the plant manager, an incredibly skilled worker. However, with age, he now stands in a position to advise the workers and watch over them. Although I'm in my 50s, I'm still actively working, so I am effectively the plant manager. My son, Will, after graduating from college, applies what he learned to provide various jobs for the factory. My mother and wife support my father and me behind the scenes, and I tackle my work with enthusiasm every day. The days of everyone doing their best in what they can do pass by enjoyably and meaningfully. Although it is a rural factory, it has produced some results, and we do business with major companies, so I never considered the factory to be in danger of closing. However, the worst event that would overturn such feelings awaited me. One day, Will and I were working with a bit of tension. Today, a representative from the Golden Group, a client, was coming to negotiate a new product deal at this factory. The Golden Group is a famous company, #1 in the industry. Most of the parts we make are delivered to the Golden Group, making them our major client. At 11 a.m., the scheduled time, a luxury car stopped in front of the factory. They're here. I'll go check it out. Will, wiping his sweat, headed towards the luxury car. The man who got out of the car was wearing an expensive suit and looked down on the factory with disdain. Do you have any idea how long it took to bring me here? As the man said that, another man in the driver's seat greeted. Manager Charles, this is the Taylor manufacturing plant, our client. We have a meeting scheduled here today. The man sucking up to Charles was Tom, whom we had dealt with 6 months ago on a different product. I know him as a man who constantly mocks our factory, calling it dirty, and always looks down on us with no manners or morals. As Charles and Tom sluggishly walked into the factory, Will greeted them with a smile. However, as soon as Charles and Tom stepped inside, they looked around with disgust and said something outrageous. Are you seriously doing business with parts made in a place like this? These parts are a disgrace to our company's name. Charles picked up a half-finished part nearby and slammed it onto the floor. The sudden act caused the employees working to stop and stare in disbelief. Tom, despite being flustered by Charles's actions, watched with a smirk. Noticing me, Charles arrogantly walked over. Are you the head of this rundown factory? Our company is very famous, so could you not make parts in such a dirty place? I picked up the part that had been dropped, looked Charles straight in the eye, and replied, This part has undergone numerous improvements to near perfection. Without this part, you can't make your company's products, right? Charles laughed in disbelief at my words. What? A dirty factory in the middle of nowhere, not even worth discussing. Are you mocking us? I was dumbfounded by the two laughing and looking at each other. Being a client of a major company doesn't mean they can act so arrogantly. After welcoming Charles and Tom, Will, who was listening while doing other tasks, stopped and glared at them. Could you show us a bit of respect? We're not some rundown, ancient factory. Charles's words pushed me to my limit. At that moment, get lost, kid. The deal is off. I felt a tremendous pressure from behind me. When I turned around, I saw my father standing there with a serious expression. He briskly walked up to the two and glared sharply at them. You just insulted and looked down on every single employee here. We refuse to do business with a company that has people like you." Charles laughed mockingly at my father's words, but Tom, standing beside him, panicked and handed over some documents. "Wait a minute. If the deal falls through, we won't be able to launch our new product." Charles, surprised by Tom's sudden panic, seemed confused about what was happening. Seeing Tom frantically apologizing, Charles laughed through his nose, so I decided to explain the factory and company's deal. "This meeting is about parts that can only be used for your company's new product. The part you broke is crucial for your company, isn't it?" Hearing my words, Charles turned to Tom with a panicked expression and started yelling. "Tom, why didn't you tell me about this? We've disrespected an important client." I couldn't help but think that respectful behavior should be a given in any business deal, but I waited for Tom's response. Tom retorted to Charles, looking exasperated. "I've told you many times, Manager Charles, yet you've constantly badmouthed the factory in the office." Tom was acting as if he was on our side all along, trying to shift all the blame onto Charles. However, I wasn't going to let Tom's actions slide. "Tom, you've always mocked us in past dealings. Now, acting like you're on our side is just cruel." Confronted with the unexpected truth, Tom clicked his tongue and looked down. My father continued to glare at Charles and Tom in disbelief at their behavior. "Aside from your attitude this time, we've had to endure unforgivable behavior in past meetings. We're canceling this deal and all previous ones." At my father's words, Tom quickly apologized. "I deeply apologize. Without the parts made in this factory, we can't maintain our #1 position in the industry." As Tom apologized, he glanced at Charles. But Charles let out a big sigh and said something even more outrageous. "Honestly, this factory is acting all high and mighty over some parts. Without us, you'd go out of business." Charles's words sent a chill through the factory. My father's face turned bright red as he shouted at Charles and Tom. "If that's how you feel, then get out right now. Never set foot in this factory again." Intimidated by my father's anger, the two hurriedly left the factory. "Thanks for stepping in, Dad." When I thanked him, he returned to his usual gentle smile. My father has always been calm and well-liked, rarely getting angry since I was a child. For those two to anger him so much, they must have a certain talent. Just because they're a big company doesn't mean they can say whatever they want. Besides, our factory won't go under just because we lose Golden Group's business. As my father said, there was a bit of a different truth to Charles's words. Our factory currently manufactures products exclusively for the Golden Group. However, other companies had been asking us for our products for a long time. But because the Golden Group kept ordering large quantities, we were unable to take on any other clients. Now, we could finally cancel the contract with the Golden Group and start working with other companies. I discussed with Will about sending out materials for future contracts. 10 days later, while working as usual, we received a call from the Golden Group. The caller was Charles, the one who had angered my father before. "What do you want? We've cancelled all our contracts with you." Charles, sounding like he was about to cry, apologized to me. "I deeply apologize for the inappropriate behavior from Tom and me the other day. Without your parts, we can't launch our new product." Even so, there was no way we would continue doing business with a company that treated our parts like that. As I stayed silent in disbelief, Charles tried to elicit sympathy. "There are people eagerly waiting for our products. If this gets out, both Tom and I could be in serious trouble. Honestly, I don't care what happens to them. I'm done with them insulting the factory we've worked so hard to build." After Charles finished saying everything he wanted, I replied, "I understand what you're saying, but we've already informed your higher-ups about your behavior. I imagine you'll be having some discussions with them soon." Charles, not expecting this, was shocked, his voice cracking. He didn't think we'd contact their higher-ups. If we're cancelling the contract, it's only right to explain the reasons clearly to their top management. "What? Why did you contact them without permission? For country folks? You sure act fast." As soon as Charles realized we were serious, his tone changed, revealing his true nature. Maybe this is how Charles really is. It puzzled me how his emotions could swing so wildly between anger and apology. "Call us country folks or whatever you like. Soon, you won't be able to mock us anymore." Charles tried to retort, but I hung up on him abruptly. "Dad, we got a call from a new client. Even after ending our contract with the Golden Group, we're going to be busy." Will, who was working on paperwork beside me, smiled happily. "Even without the Golden Group, there are plenty of companies that want to work with us. The time has finally come to show them that." After cancelling our contract, we sealed several deals with other companies and focused on manufacturing parts. The new companies we contracted with aren't that big, but they respect our ideals and demands, and we have a mutually respectful relationship. After finishing a deal with one of these companies, we took a break and watched the local news. What we saw was shocking. "Isn't this news about the Golden Group?" Will, watching with me, pointed at the TV with a surprised expression. On the screen were Charles greeted deeply and the president of the Golden Group. Apparently, the Golden Group had to delay the launch of their new product because they couldn't proceed with manufacturing. Furthermore, they had imposed unreasonable demands on other factories, resulting in a massive strike. The company explained that the reason for the strike was entirely due to the actions of their sales manager, Charles. It's true that the part requires a significant amount of time and money to manufacture, which heavily burdens the factory. Judging by the situation, they must have begged for a quick and cheap production. Looks like they finally realized what happens when someone who doesn't understand. The feelings of the manufacturers comes to negotiate. Seeing Charles on the verge of tears as the reporters grilled him during the press conference, my father coldly commented and walked away. Given his demeanor, Charles must have looked down on and mistreated workers at other factories too. With this in mind, I quietly watched the Golden Group's apology conference. A few weeks later, while discussing parts with the employees, Will came running at full speed. "Dad, Charles and Tom have shown up here. They're super angry, and I can't handle them myself." Will looked exhausted, having tried his best to manage the situation. I asked an employee to take a message and hurried to the factory in trance. Standing there were Charles and Tom, looking like they were about to explode with anger. "What's this about? We're not doing business with you anymore." When I said this dismissively, Charles turned bright red and started shouting, "Someone from your factory spread rumors about us. Because of that, there was a strike, and I had to do that press conference." Tom added an explanation to Charles's furious words. "It seems our next client heard about the incident from the manager at Taylor Manufacturing Plant, and that's why the strike happened. Even so, blaming me for this is utterly unreasonable." Just as I was about to explain that I had no knowledge of this, I heard my father's voice from behind me. "The next client you're talking about is Takada Factory, right?" My father slowly walked toward the two. Remembering the intense anger they faced last time, Charles and Tom looked at him with a hint of fear. Then my father revealed a shocking truth. "I'm the one who told them about your failures at that factory. Instead of looking for someone to blame, why don't you go and apologize to your client?" Hearing this, Charles looked like he was about to throw a punch. Tom, overwhelmed again by my father's presence, dragged Charles away, and they left the factory. "Dad, why do you have a connection with someone at Takada Factory? Did you work together in the past?" Takada Factory is one of the most renowned factories in the country. I wondered how it was connected to Taylor Manufacturing. When I asked, my father shared his past with me. The current manager of Takada Factory used to work as an employee at our factory. He learned a lot of skills from my father and eventually decided to start his own factory. That factory became famous and grew into a major facility that receives orders from overseas companies. I couldn't stand by and let those guys ruin the factory run by my precious apprentice. That's why I warned Takada Factory about Charles and Tom. My father wanted to reduce the number of companies suffering from those two, besides Taylor Manufacturing. Seeing him like that, I felt a strong desire to show that our factory is more valuable than the Golden Group. Charles and Tom are still mocking us. Just wait and see. Seeing my burning determination, my father looked pleased. 2 months later, after numerous discussions with our clients, we successfully created a new product. This can beat the Golden Group's products. We did it, Dad. Will, who worked tirelessly, looked genuinely happy as he admired the parts. Our clients have thanked us repeatedly, and this might make them regret their actions. We exchanged looks of satisfaction, feeling like we had gotten our revenge. As expected, the product we developed with our new clients sold rapidly, eventually surpassing the Golden Group's sales. Even in my prime, we never sold this much. My son and grandson have done a fantastic job. My father beamed as he looked at the reports. But our joy was short-lived as we received another call. This time, it was Tom, not Charles, speaking humbly instead of arrogantly. It seems your product has outsold ours. Could you provide us with such outstanding technology once more? It's unsettling to be this obsessed with a relationship that ended. Even though they're humble now, there's a high chance they'll revert to their old attitude if we resume business. I listened with disinterest as Tom tried to tempt me with large sums of money and badmouthed our current clients. Finally, having had enough, I decided to speak my mind. We're not stupid enough to do business again with a company that looked down on us. You've been calling and visiting us often. Are you in a pinch because we cancelled our contract? We're not here to help. Tom, realizing I hit the mark, hesitated but began to speak the truth. Actually, since we cancelled the deal with you, other factories have stopped production too. Apparently, other factories, hearing we had cancelled our contract, reached their limit and started ending their deals as well. Moreover, all the factories that cancelled their contracts had their negotiations handled by Manager Charles. These parts are crucial, and we can't keep up with production. Hearing Tom speak in a voice on the verge of tears, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. That's entirely your own fault. Why act like a victim? Tom, perhaps expecting sympathy, responded with a shaky voice. I took the opportunity to vent my frustration. You've been acting like you were disappointed in Charles, but you mocked us too at the beginning, didn't you? As Tom listened in silence, I continued talking without holding back. It's too late for apologies now. Reflect on your behavior and do better in your next business negotiations. When I said this, Tom responded, sobbing. Manager Charles was demoted because of you. Don't you feel any sympathy for someone who's sad and in shock? With such arrogant behavior, it was only a matter of time before he faced some kind of punishment. I've never heard of a business deal where you have to worry about the ranks of the employees at your client's company. Are you aware of how selfish you sound? My cold words left Tom completely silent. As I was about to end the call with a brief farewell, I heard another voice on the line. Please, give me another chance. I'll never act like that again. It seemed Charles, seeing Tom's despair, had taken over the call to plead. Our company is in danger of going bankrupt because our other products aren't selling. We've had a long relationship with your factory and helped make you famous. The claim that they made us famous was so shocking that I was left speechless. This person seemed to be inherently driven to assert his superiority. Seeing that I remained silent, Charles made one final plea. You're from the countryside. Picking a fight with a big company like the Golden Group could be disastrous for you. You'll forgive us, right? With those words, the option to help them vanished entirely. How many times do I have to tell you? We're never doing business with you again. Your company is full of employees who mock us as country bumpkins whenever something goes wrong. Don't ever contact us again. If the Golden Group goes under, it's entirely your fault. I said this and hung up without waiting for Charles's response. My father, sitting next to me, listened proudly and gently patted my shoulder. You were very impressive just now. You've protected the factory and our employees." His words filled me with a warm sense of pride. A few weeks after that call, the Golden Group's bankruptcy was reported on the news. The reasons given were numerous complaints from clients, production delays due to strikes, and a dwindling customer base. 5 days after the bankruptcy announcement, the president, Charles, and Tom came to our factory. They finally expressed gratitude for our continued business and apologized for their behavior during the last negotiation. "It's my fault the company ended up like this. I'm truly sorry." Charles, looking defeated, was followed by Tom, who also apologized. "We thought we could get away with anything because we were a big company. We're very sorry." Even the president greeted deeply, turning the factory entrance into a scene of chaos. "We understand now. Please leave immediately." My father and I coldly dismissed their excuses, sending the three of them away. The next day, Will informed us of something new. An employee from another factory had exposed Charles and Tom's misconduct on social media. This led to their identification on the internet. Additionally, people who had been insulted by them had recorded conversations, which were now being leaked online. Because Golden Group was a major company, the news was covered extensively, and reporters visited our factory several times. However, as the online uproar grew, the reporters' focus shifted to Charles and Tom. "Those two are in serious trouble. Their photos and recordings from the negotiations are all over the internet," Will said. According to him, the backlash against them was more severe than expected. And even before the company went bankrupt, there were rumors about how problematic they were. When the news finally settled, rumors began circulating that the president of Golden Group was planning to sue Charles and Tom for damages. A friend who had worked at Golden Group until last year told me that the bankruptcy was almost entirely Charles's fault. And the president was furious. The president intended to ensure that the two who brought such disgrace to a well-known company faced proper punishment. Although Charles and Tom finally realized the extent of their failures, they desperately tried to avoid the president's claims. However, their responsibility for the disaster was enormous. Being a large company, many employees were left jobless. There's no one left to support them. They apologized to us too, but it felt like they were making excuses. They won't learn their lesson unless something like this happens, Wall said, and I nodded in agreement. Having the title of a big company employee doesn't mean you can do anything. They learn it the hard way that you need to show the utmost respect and appreciation to the factories that make their products. The three who came to apologize to us reportedly spent a long time visiting every factory they had worked with to apologize. However, they found no sympathy anywhere, facing loud reprimands and even physical assaults. I believe they deserved it. Their behavior during negotiations had been a source of stress for us, filled with negative remarks. This incident marked our complete victory and the beginning of their nightmare. The backlash against Charles and Tom spread, leaving them with nowhere to go. Both were married with children, but the scandal led to their divorces, as reported online. Their private lives were exposed, indicating just how disliked they were. The compensation from the company was said to be $2 million each, which might seem lenient for a large corporation. Even so, with their faces plastered all over the internet, finding a job would be nearly impossible for them. After his divorce, Charles took a live-in temp job and even ended up working in the rural area where we are. However, he was remembered for loudly mocking this town, looking down on the residents even at the train station during negotiations. So no one welcomed him. Eventually, he left, and now we have no idea how he's making a living. I heard that Tom, overwhelmed by the backlash, had a mental breakdown and is now trying to work while undergoing treatment. However, it didn't last long, and he soon quit his job, falling behind on his compensation payments. Even now, when things should have settled down, some people on the internet still watch them for entertainment. At first, I felt sorry for them, but considering this is the result of their behavior, I think they got off lightly, Their actions were despicable, looking down on others. It's something you can't understand until you're in the same position. As things calmed down, we enjoyed a fun party with our new business partners. The products that were once monopolized by the big company are now being produced by various companies, each adding their unique touch. Our clients have been getting stable results and organized a party to thank us. I'm so glad we have partners who respect each other. If we had stayed with them, things would have been disastrous. My father said, enjoying his beer. I greeted to him. Dad, thank you for standing up to those two back then. From now on, Will and I will work together to protect this factory. My father's face softened into a gentle smile at my words. Next to him, Will nodded enthusiastically. This incident turned out to be a great opportunity for us to grow significantly. Continuing relationships with big companies is not always the best thing. As a plant manager, my role is to collaborate with trustworthy partners and create excellent products together. Even in my 50s, challenges keep arising. But for me, that is a very comforting thought. Moving forward, I intend to continue working with everyone to develop the factory my father built.